The flickering neon sign above the pumps, its O perpetually dark, cast long, dancing shadows across the cracked asphalt. Most people, if they even noticed the desolate outpost off Route 17, would see just another forgotten gas station, a relic of a bygone era. They wouldn't see the whispers carried on the high desert wind, the way the shadows seemed to stretch and contort into impossible shapes, or the subtle, almost imperceptible shift in the air when the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of bruised purple and blood orange. They wouldn't know about the rules, but I do. And if you've ever wondered what truly lurks in the quiet, forgotten corners of our world, the places where the veil between what we know and what we fear is thinnest, then you're about to discover a truth most people spend their entire lives blissfully unaware of. This isn't just a story about a gas station, it's about the 3 unbreakable rules that keep me and anyone else foolish enough to take this shift alive. My name is Alex. I've worked the night shift at this godforsaken gas station for the past 2 years, ever since I stumbled upon the job listing online, a cryptic ad promising isolated work, excellent pay, minimal human interaction. Sounds like a dream, right? For a while it was. The solitude was a balm, the quiet nights a canvas for my thoughts. Then came the orientation, not with a friendly manager, but with a gaunt, hollow-eyed man named Arthur, who looked like he hadn't slept in a decade. He handed me a laminated sheet of paper, its edges worn smooth, and explained the rules. Not the usual don't shortchange customers kind of rules, but rules that felt ancient, primal, etched into the very fabric of this desolate land. He spoke in a low, monotone voice, his eyes darting nervously towards the windows, as if expecting something to materialize out of the darkness. I remember scoffing internally, thinking it was some kind of elaborate prank, a way to test new hires. But the look in his eyes, a deep, unsettling fear, told me otherwise. Rule number 1, never, under any circumstances, unlock the door after midnight, no matter who or what is outside. Arthur emphasized this with a chilling intensity, his voice dropping to a near whisper. They'll try to convince you, Alex. They'll plead, they'll beg, they'll even threaten. But you don't open that door. Not for anyone. Not for anything. He told me about the time a new guy, a young kid named Mark, felt sorry for a woman claiming her car had broken down miles back. She looked terrified, crying, her face streaked with dirt. Mark, being the compassionate soul he was, ignored Arthur's warnings. He opened the door. The next morning when Arthur arrived for his shift, the station was empty. Mark's car was still in the lot, his wallet and keys on the counter. The only trace of him was a single, muddy footprint, impossibly large, leading away from the back door and into the vast, empty desert. The desert out here isn't truly empty. It's teeming with things that prefer the dark, things that hunger. The first few weeks were uneventful. I'd serve the occasional trucker, the rare lost tourist, and then settle into the quiet rhythm of the night, the hum of the refrigerators and the distant howl of coyotes, my only companions. I'd glance at the laminated sheet, a faint smile playing on my lips, dismissing Arthur's warnings as the ramblings of an old man who'd spent too much time in solitude. Then one night, around 1:30 a.m., a car pulled up. It was an old, beat-up sedan, its headlights dim and flickering. A man got out, tall and gaunt, his face obscured by the shadow of a wide-brimmed hat. He tapped on the window, his knuckles making a sharp, insistent sound against the glass. I watched him through the security camera feed, a knot forming in my stomach. He gestured towards the pump, then to his empty wallet, mouthing something I couldn't quite make out. He looked desperate, his shoulders slumped. My rational mind told me he was just a stranded motorist, perhaps out of gas and money. My instincts, however, screamed at me to follow the rule. I shook my head, pointing to the closed sign. He tapped again, harder this time, a subtle shift in his posture, a hint of something predatory in the way he held himself. He pulled out a crumpled piece of paper and held it against the glass. It was a handwritten note. "My daughter is sick. Please, just a gallon." My heart ached for him. But the image of Mark's footprint flashed in my mind. I held firm. He stood there for a long moment, unmoving, then slowly, deliberately, he turned and walked back to his car. As he opened his car door, I saw it. Just for a split second, the light from the interior illuminated his face. His eyes, they weren't human. They glowed with a faint, unnatural red, like embers in a dying fire. He got in, started the car, and drove off, leaving me trembling behind the counter, the taste of fear metallic in my mouth. Rule number 2. Never, ever look directly into the eyes of a customer who approaches the window after 3 a.m. Arthur had stressed this rule with a particular urgency, his voice tight with a suppressed terror. Their eyes, Alex, they're not their own. They're portals, and if you look too deep, something will look back. He recounted a story about a woman who'd worked here decades ago, before his time. Her name was Eileen. She was a no-nonsense type, pragmatic, fearless. One night, a man approached her window, his face obscured by shadow. He asked for a pack of cigarettes. Eileen, annoyed by his evasiveness, leaned closer, trying to get a better look. She saw his eyes. Arthur said she screamed, a sound that echoed across the empty desert for miles. When the sheriff arrived the next morning, Eileen was found catatonic, staring blankly at the wall, muttering incoherently about the void and the hunger. She never recovered, spending the rest of her days in a mental institution, her eyes wide and unseeing. This story, more than any other, had stuck with me. The first time I encountered this rule in action, it was a foggy night, the kind where the world outside the glass seemed to dissolve into a thick, swirling gray. The clock on the wall read 3:17 a.m. A figure emerged from the mist, walking slowly towards the station. It was a woman, her hair long and dark, her clothes old-fashioned, almost Victorian. She stopped at the window, her face partially obscured by the fog and the angle of the porch light. She didn't speak, just stared at the gas pumps, her head tilted slightly. I felt an inexplicable pull, a morbid curiosity urging me to look closer, to see her face. My gaze drifted upwards towards her eyes. Just as my vision focused, a jolt of pure terror shot through me. I averted my gaze just in time, my eyes snapping down to the counter. The air in the station suddenly felt heavy, charged with an unseen presence. I could feel her presence, a cold, intense scrutiny, even without looking. A faint, almost imperceptible scratching sound began at the window, like fingernails dragging across the glass. It lasted only a few seconds, then stopped. When I finally dared to look up, she was gone, swallowed by the swirling fog. The next morning, as the first rays of sun pierced through the lingering mist, I found 3 distinct deep gouges on the outside of the window, perfectly spaced, as if made by claws. It was then that I truly understood the gravity of Arthur's warnings. These weren't abstract fears. They were real, tangible threats. If you're finding this unsettling, and you want to hear more stories that peel back the layers of our mundane reality to reveal the unsettling truths beneath, consider hitting that subscribe button and joining our community of night owls. We delve into the shadows so you don't have to. Rule number 3. If the lights flicker more than 3 times in a row, immediately turn off all power, hide in the storage closet, and do not emerge until the first rays of dawn touch the horizon. This rule, Arthur explained, was the most critical, the ultimate fail-safe. That flickering, Alex, it's not a malfunction, it's a signal, a breach. And when it happens, you don't fight it, you hide. He told me about the time he'd seen it himself. It was a particularly stormy night, the wind howling like a banshee. The lights had flickered, not just once or twice, but rhythmically, like a heartbeat. He'd initially dismissed it as a power surge, but then he remembered the rule. He killed the power, plunged the station into darkness, and locked himself in the cramped storage closet, surrounded by dusty boxes of oil and air fresheners. He said he heard things that night. Scrabbling sounds from the ceiling, a low, guttural growl that seemed to vibrate through the very foundations of the building, and a faint, rhythmic thumping that sounded like something impossibly heavy dragging itself across the floor. He stayed hidden for hours, his heart pounding in his chest, convinced that whatever was out there was searching for him. When the first hint of gray light appeared through the cracks in the closet door, the sounds ceased. He emerged, trembling, to find the station in disarray. Shelves overturned, products scattered, and a strange viscous residue smeared across the counter, smelling faintly of ozone and decay. Last week, it happened. It was a quiet night, unusually still. The air was thick with an oppressive silence, the kind that precedes a storm, or something far worse. I was restocking the soda fridge when the lights flickered. Once, then again. My breath caught in my throat. I stared at the fluorescent tubes, willing them to stabilize. They flickered a third time. My blood ran cold. This wasn't a power surge. This was it. My hands trembled as I fumbled for the main power switch, plunging the entire station into absolute darkness. The sudden void was disorienting, terrifying. I stumbled towards the storage closet, my heart hammering against my ribs, the sound deafening in the sudden silence. I threw open the door, squeezed inside, and pulled it shut, fumbling for the lock. The air in the closet was stale, thick with the smell of cleaning supplies and old cardboard. I pressed myself against the back wall, trying to control my ragged breathing. Then the sounds began. First, a soft scraping against the front door, like something testing the lock. Then, a low moan, a sound that seemed to emanate from everywhere and nowhere at once. A mournful, hungry cry. It was followed by a series of heavy thuds echoing from the main area of the station, as if something enormous was moving around, bumping into things, searching. I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to block out the sounds, to convince myself it wasn't real. But the sounds were too vivid, too visceral. I heard the distinct clink of glass breaking, then the tearing sound of plastic, like a bag of chips being ripped open. A strange, wet sniffing sound came from just outside the closet door, a sound that made my skin crawl. It was close. Too close. I held my breath, every muscle in my body tense, waiting. The sniffing continued for what felt like an eternity, then stopped. A silence, even more terrifying than the sounds, descended. I slowly opened my eyes, peering through the crack in the door. Nothing. Just the impenetrable darkness of the station. I stayed in that closet for what felt like an entire lifetime. Every shadow seemed to coalesce into monstrous shapes. Every creak of the old building sent a jolt of terror through me. I watched the faint line of light under the closet door, willing it to brighten, to signal the dawn. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the first faint glow of orange light appeared. The sounds had long since stopped. I waited, my hand on the doorknob, for another 10 minutes, just to be sure. Then, slowly, cautiously, I pushed open the door. The station was a mess. Shelves were overturned, products were strewn across the floor, and the cash register lay on its side, its drawer gaping open, empty. But it wasn't just the mess that chilled me to the bone. There were tracks, not footprints, but something else, something wider, heavier, like a massive, three-toed claw had dragged itself across the floor. They led from the front door, around the counter, and then towards the back, disappearing through the employee entrance. On the counter, where the cash register had been, was a single, perfect obsidian black feather about the size of my hand. It shimmered with an unnatural iridescence, absorbing all light. I picked it up, my fingers trembling. It was impossibly light, yet felt ancient, imbued with a strange, cold energy. I still have it, hidden in a locked box under my bed, a chilling reminder of what lurks just beyond the periphery of our understanding. I still work the night shift at that gas station. The money is good, and frankly, after what I've seen, other jobs just feel mundane. But every night, as the sun dips below the horizon and the neon sign begins its broken flicker, I feel the familiar knot of dread tighten in my stomach. I check the locks, I review the rules, and I prepare myself for whatever the darkness might bring. Because out here, in the vast, empty stretches of the desert, there are things that defy explanation, things that operate by their own ancient, terrifying rules. And the only way to survive is to follow them, without question, without hesitation. The world is far stranger and far more dangerous than most people could ever imagine. And now, you know a little bit of that truth too.